instances of paranormal phenomena have been reported in this desolate place. Events that may reflect the area's tragic past.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Other Dangerous Podcasts, where we talk all things paranormal. I'm Ken James, and this is Jason McKittrick.
Hey, folks.
And if it can haunt, howl, or dwell in the dark, we want to talk about it. So this week, we got another episode with ghosts that we're trying to make sure becomes a staple in your everyday life. We want you to live, breathe, and ghosts along with us. And we're doing our part to nail this in our society.
Sounds good.
Basically, be as weird as me, folks. That's what I'm aiming for. But tonight's topic, we are going into the world of haunted castles. Now, baby, these castles, man.
I mean, this could be, these could be just a few of our favorites that we handpicked. I mean, this could be an ongoing series. I would say all castles are probably haunted.
Yeah. The word castle it should just be called, it's like ghost chamber. That's like synonymous.
Right.
It's,
Right.
Right. But yeah, we're gonna go through each of three of our favorites. And then we are going to kind of pick them apart like we do. But before we get into that, I will be bringing you tonight's jump scare. All right, guys, this one comes from our old friend Dave from Nowhere. So Dave titled this one, The Old Scary Witch. In the fall of 1994, yes, I'm older, I became a single father of my 3- and 5-year-old children and had to move into my parents' house in Las Vegas, Nevada. I had never lived at this house as my parents and my younger sister and brother moved in after I'd left for the military in 1982. Over the years, prior to moving in with my kids, my brother would tell me about him believing there was a ghost of an old lady living in and around his bedroom and the bedroom over the stairs, which was next to his. My parents were very religious and never mentioned anything about it and would scoff when my brother would bring it up. My brother claimed that on several occasions, he would wake up during the night and see an apparition near his door looking at him, or in the hallway near the other bedroom door when he would go into the bathroom. He said the ghost was an older lady with long gray hair pulled behind her head and that she always had long dress or an apron on. My brother claims that on one night, when my parents were not home, he had some friends over and they brought out a Ouija board and he swears that something was manipulating the planchette. The spirit would not answer questions, but would consistently push the planchette to the goodbye location on the board, except when he asked if she wanted them to leave her alone, and the planchette was pushed to yes. 2 of my brother's friends freaked out and left. Later that same night, one of my brother's friends, who was staying in the room next to my brother's room, began screaming, claiming he saw a ghost coming out of the closet, and after that, everyone, including my brother, left for the night, as would I. When I moved in with my kids, I took the room next to my brother's bedroom, and my kids took the room further down the hall. I worked grave shift at the casino, but I had weekends off, so I had a set schedule taking care of my kids. I would tuck them into bed and head to work. In the morning, my mom would wake up with them for school, and I would get home from work in time to take them to school. I would take my son to kindergarten and then my daughter to preschool, where I would sleep in the car waiting for her to finish a couple hours later. When her school was over, we would go to my parents and we would both take a nap after picking up my son. One day, my son had mentioned to my mom before dinner that he had seen a lady coming out of my uncle's room. My mom was a no-nonsense woman and called my brother down and began yelling at him for giving his girlfriend in his room. My brother denied it, of course, and my son said, no, it was the older lady and that she went down the stairs. A couple days later, I was taking a nap with my daughter in my room. While asleep, I was dreaming about an old lady coming out of the closet. She had long, scraggly hair directly over me and began screaming something that I couldn't hear. I was trying to wake up, as I usually do when having a bad dream, but this time I couldn't. All of a sudden, I heard my daughter, who was asleep next to me, screaming at the top of her lungs. I jumped up, finally awake, and she looked as if she was filled with terror. I held her and took her out of the room downstairs. She calmed down, and I asked her what happened. She explained that she was dreaming and that she saw an old, scary witch who was standing over her and screaming at her. She described the same thing I saw. I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
Again with the old ladies, and then this one's a witch.
Yep, that's the thing. We were so heavy, hot and heavy with the old lady ghosts in our earlier episodes, and like when I read this, I was like, oh fuck, Dave, oh man, terrifying.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's another classic story. But coming out of the closet and like under beds and stuff, it's like, why?
Yeah,
what? Ghosts, come on.
You have to, don't you, ghosts?
They do. I mean, they can't just like, look, if you wanted us to do something for you, like leave a note, like haunt my phone, text me. I don't know. You don't have to come out of my closet and fucking terrify me and then possess my child.
Yeah. You don't have to come in both our dreams, do the exact same fucking thing, and scream in our faces in some foreign tongue. Like, Jesus, man. Ugh.
Right.
Yeah, this was a little longer of a jump scare, but I really like this story, and I wanted to make sure to get it on here. But Dave from Nowhere, thanks again. Great story as always.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Thank you.
All right, so moving on here, you're going to bring us our first castle.
Yeah, I think that sounds good, buddy. Mm-hmm. So my first entry into our haunted castle is a very famous one. It's located in Ireland. It's known as Lep Castle. I'm sure you've heard of this one before. Mm-hmm. Now, this one I heard of for the first time from that fantastic show hosted by Zelda Rubinstein. Is that scariest places on earth?
It was hosted by Linda Blair, and it was
narrated
Excuse me.
It was narrated. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I'll kill myself over this. And I remember watching that on there the first time because they mentioned it. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And my favorite part about that was that really interested me, aside from being an ancient Irish castle, was this idea of a creature called an elemental.
The elemental.
So exactly. And what's interesting about this elemental creature, normally when you hear that term, right, you think of like, and if you've seen it in somewhere else, an elemental is usually like, oh, it's this entity of like water or fire or wind, like, what I mean? They usually, they're elementals. This thing, just
all the fake bad guys from Spider-Man Far From Home, that's what you think of.
Right. Fuck, I did not like that movie. Anyway, I digress. So built in, they're not actually sure. They actually think it's somewhere between the 13th to late 15th century. That's how shrouded in mystery this place is. And this was built by the O'Bannon clan, and it was in this this centralized area in the middle of Ireland, and it's interesting because anyone that seems to have lived in this castle, starting with their first inhabitants, met like horrible ends. The main family that eventually was the ruling class there, the Carroll Clan, basically killed each other. Like they were like warring they had two brothers that were like warring with each other, and they eventually like ended up killing each other. Like there's this famous story where and it was gave name to the place inside the castle. It's called the Bloody Chapel. One of these brothers was he was a priest, and he was in this chapel giving mass, and his brother comes in and just murders him right in front of his whole family. It said that his brother burst into the chapel, plunged his sword into him, and fatally wounded him.
Jeez,
the butchered priest fell across the altar and died in front of his family.
Doing God's work,
no
man.
big deal,
yeah,
right?
It's just
I mean, I guess.
Jesus God.
And then, so that was the first inhabitants of the castle. It sat for a bit, but in 1659, the castle passed by marriage and into the Darby family. And it stayed in their family for quite a while. I mean, like all the way up to like the 1920s. But most, I guess, infamously, this period in time is linked to times where they said the people in the Darby family were actually involved in black magic, and they say this is what brought this elemental, to life, or was conjured, whatever you want to call it.
Called it into existence.
Called it into existence. I guess that makes a lot of sense. And what was also interesting was, during the time that they were still inhabiting the castle, there was like some construction work being done. They were trying to, renovate the place because it's very, very old. And during during one of the renovations in the early 1900s, workers found what's called an oubliette, which is this dungeon that you're basically just dropped into, and like the door is in the ceiling.
And I still recall the oubliette, like in the look into the camera.
Yeah. Right, and it's the French word that means a little place of forgetting, because there's no spikes in there. This isn't Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
You don't drop. You just drop them in there and you leave them in there.
Yeah,
and that's it. And they would just
scream away, fuckhead. Enjoy
Exactly.
nothing for the rest of your life.
Exactly. And when they found this oubliette, it was behind the wall in this chapel, and so they open it up, and I don't know how much this is, but they said there was 2 cartloads of human bones. I don't know what the exact measurement of cartloads are, but that sounds like a shitload to me.
It's 3 times less than a measured fuck ton.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was really fucked up was, so you find this thing, right? You're looking at it or whatever, the workmen who were in there. It's like, well, this has to be, when was this last used? Well, they found a pocket watch near one of the skeletons from the mid 1800s. So they were still using this fucker.
They're like, yo, Brian is being a total dick. And then one guy's like, yo, I'm going to open the oubliette. He leans over, looks, you push him in. Yep. No more Brian.
No, he didn't push him. He totally did like, a WWF, like the Rockers, like fucking drop kick. The dude flew into the fucker. Or he
did like the sweet chin music.
Oh, I love that even better. Yeah.
He's stomping on the side of blow, bitch, and your bitch ass chin.
Yep.
Enjoy the oubliette, you fuck.
They actually he gave him the second to turn around. He's like, okay, whoa, that thing's creepy. Yeah. And then he turns around, bam. Yep.
And then you just hear, I'm a sexy boy.
Yes. Fucking Shawn Michaels.
The man.
What are you going to do?
The man.
So aside from the creature known as the elemental, we have the Red Lady ghost, who is reported to walk the halls holding a dagger. And people also associate this ghost with Mildred Darby, who is the woman who apparently conjured the elemental, which is being a being about the size of a sheep with a human face, black holes for eyes, and a nose, and giving off the smell of a rotting corpse. And other folks who have also seen it said that its face is covered with worms.
I heard one of the rumors was it had the nose of Kevin Bacon, which made it very terrifying.
That's weird. I mean, does it have a flaming skull?
Now it does.
Maybe.
Now it does.
now it does. There's also the ghosts of 2 little girls named Charlotte and Emily, and they're reported to run up and down the spiral staircase. Emily died after she fell from the battlements on the top of the castle's tower, and Charlotte can still be seen running around after her sister and calling her name. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, these are like, if you have this is in Ireland, so if you have a castle, these are the amenities. It's like, oh, what kind of ghosts you got? It's like, oh, we got these.
We have the fucking 2 little girls. They fucking run around. You have you have the elemental Kevin Bacon nose. It's all
Sure.
Don't forget the oubliette. The oubliette's over there. No spikes. Get rid of Brian.
Right. So now, I mean, the castle's actually in functioning order. There's a family that lives there now. A gentleman by the name of Sean Ryan and his wife, and they have a daughter. And
those two fuck. That's what we know.
Like you got like the villagers like around there. They're like, how the fuck could you be living in there? Yeah. Like, and he's like, well, he's just like, yeah, just came here. He's like, and the guy just doesn't care.
He's got like a belly shirt and he's got a mullet. He's got a belly shirt and a mullet. And he's like, what do you mean how I fucking live there? Two cases Guinness night. Bang me lass.
Right. Exactly.
Smack me kids around. Go to sleep.
And the guy who lives there now, Sean Ryan, he says that there's all these weird things that he was told. That he brought in a psychic at one point, and they were told he was told that, well, the ghosts don't want you to hang any pictures on this wall. He's like, whatever. So he does it, but then hangs the pictures on the wall, goes to bed. This is like his first or one of the first nights they live there. And then goes to bed and wakes up. And when he wakes up, all the pictures that he had hung on this wall were all stacked neatly right next to his bed.
And the ghost was like, no, you fuck. No, this one too.
Right. Yep. So, I mean, that's, it's your haunted Irish castle. I mean, I came for the castle, but I stayed for the elemental because that's my favorite part. Because can you imagine just sitting there, you turn around and that fucking thing's behind you?
Yeah, wasn't there? Because I remember Ghost Hunters International. They went there and that was the castle where they had the face. They had the face in the darkness, and the one guy was like, "This is the elemental." He was like going off about it, but like, isn't there an associated smell apparently with the elemental too? They said.
Oh yeah, like what I said. Some have said there's a sulfur smell. What I saw here is that there's the smell of decay.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
There's another sighting that's. I only saw this one sighting on this version. Most Haunted, the British TV show with our pal Derek Acora, the guy who likes to get possessed in every episode.
Don't you talk to me like that.
And he picked up on, and I'm just going to put that one in big fucking quotes. Yeah. He picked up on this one room where basically the devil was in this room.
Oh, fuck off.
And he was like, I know. And he's like, oh, it appears as a black dog and you smell sulfur. And like, then he starts getting possessed. Yeah. And I'm just like, he just watch the show and your eyes are just squinted. You're just looking at the screen. Just like,
it's that Furby meme where it's like, fight me, you bitch. You know that one? Like that's right. Yeah. You're just like, you little motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the only time I've seen anything like that where they're like, oh, the devil himself lives in this castle.
The devil?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I love me a good Irish castle. I'm
I love it.
Never going to say no,
Oh no, 100%. It's just, when that guy, Derek Acora, we should give him an episode and just slam him the entire episode.
Like it's like the polar opposite of the Peter James episode,
Right. I mean, because Peter James.
I'm coming through.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, what? I think it's almost like that'd be like he's like the Venom to his Spider-Man. Yeah. Like,
and in that episode, we both got to wear our Robert Stack coats and just beat the piss out of that motherfucker.
Right.
But all right. All right.
All right, man. What do you got?
All right, this first one. This one's like a fucking, another virtual cornucopia. It's got all your staples. You got fucking, tongueless women. You got fucking frog people. You got fucking a white lady. If you got a castle, there has to be a color and a lady, and it's there. But yeah,
that's true.
This is Glam's Castle, baby. It's in Angus, Scotland. And now this motherfucker. This place was built in the 15th century. It's actually one of its earliest mention is in Shakespeare's Macbeth, and the most cursed of characters was Thane of Glamis. And in 1034, it's hard to even fucking say that year because it's so old. The Scottish King Malcolm II died there, and he was perhaps murdered. But the castle was constructed only in the 15th century, but motherfuckers were around in the 14th. So. Yeah, and the walls itself, they were 16 feet thick. So imagine how much rock gathering energy
Yeah.
This place is, I mean, but this place was the home of the Lion family since the 14th century. Through the present building dates, largely it's the 17th centuries where a lot more building was added onto it. So originally, it's like that was the land in the 14th, 15th, it gets built, keeps going to the fucking 17th. Right. So many generations. And it was the childhood home of Queen Elizabeth, the mother of King George the Sixth. So we got some, royalty up in this motherfucker.
The pedigree.
Yeah. So, but the hauntings. Right. All right, you got. So the earliest reference comes in 1908, which it was claimed that in the Castle of Glams is a secret chamber, and in this chamber is confined a monster who is the rightful heir and title to the property, but he was so disgusting and gross that they had to keep him out of sight. So, so there's lots of reports of seeing this guy that was sometimes described as like a frogman or just like a crooked bent man that would just like, you'd see rotting down the fucking halls, and visitors be like, yo, I saw this motherfucker. And they'd be like, nothing to see here. You weren't supposed to be out of bed. And they would literally like give visitors like a fucking, bedtime to let this motherfucker run around the castle.
Yeah, it's like, after this time, do not come out of your fucking room.
Imagine the movie The Visit where the grandmother is, sundowning.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
But in a castle, and he's like part frog. You're like, yeah, fuck that, man. But described as, a monster or human toad, or even my favorite one is he was described as a flabby egg. Imagine seeing that shit running around. You're like,
I gotta love the gamut of descriptions here. Is it a fucking frogman or a flabby egg? Dude,
I don't know, but genius.
This also is Scotland, though. I mean, they could have been fucking ripped.
Yeah, they were ripped. What do you but like, I love the idea of like, so like this, the woman saw it, and, the next morning, they're like, did you leave the bedroom? And she's like, yes, I did. They're like, what'd you say? Flabby egg man. She's like terrified, just like looking out into space. Can't lock on. But okay, so cut that aside.
That's not. It's honestly, it sounds like that's the start of a band right there. The Frogman and the Flabby Eggs. Like
a modern one, they make the with the millennial howl, like oh, like that's Hayes and claps are in the chorus and shit.
Yep, and banjos.
Yeah. And banjos and mandolins, but so see, even since then there's been many sightings of this, so like it built like a resurgence into looking into the history of it, because people would see what they saw was thought was an apparition of people like cleaning, working, staying there, of this flabby egg frogman, human toad monster, whatever you want to call him, and they would describe this, and it led like kind of a resurgence into looking in the history, and then it brought about the Eggman of Glams. It really brought back this fucking story of this era.
You think this Eggman was after the Chaos Crystals, or? I
think this Eggman lacked the mustache. He didn't have all the, he wasn't good at trapping small furry animals. No. Well, if he was, Sonic would have, brought his ass up to Scotland and handled shit, But not only that, which is the most famous of the hauntings there with the Eggman, you got yourself the Grey Lady. The Grey Lady of Glams haunts the family chapel and the clock tower of the castle. She's believed to be Lady Glams, also known as Janet Douglas, burned at the stake for being a supposed witch in 1537.
Fucking Janet.
Yeah. Fucking Janet. She was accused of poisoning her husband, John Lyon, Lord Glams, upon his death in 1528, but she was cleared of the crime and free to marry her second husband, Archibald Campbell of Skipness.
Archie of Skipness?
Archie, that's a character, dude. Archie of Skipness. He's like, no, I'll marry her. I don't much believe. He's Morrissey. Right. He's the singer Morrissey. That's his character.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Don't
right.
much,
it's just like a long wig, though.
Yeah, he's like, I don't much fancy. Boy or girl, I'll marry her. Just fancy companionship.
All right.
Yeah. But then
Castle ghosts, man.
they're crazy. But however, in July of 1537, she was accused of planting the poison of King James V of Scotland and communicating with her brothers who were part of several conspiracies against the king. So all this, brought to a head, and now they see the Gray Lady in the clock tower of the castle, the family chapel. There's another one who's the Earl of Beardy. One of the more infamous ghosts of Glam's Castle is that of Alexander Lindsay, 4th Earl of Crawford, also known as Earl Beardy. He was supposedly a cruel and twisted man who drank heavily, like that. It's always that he once had a black servant stripped naked and forced to run around the grounds for his and the other earl's entertainment. Scumbag. Don't like that. The entertainment was actually a hunt, and the poor man was chased down by Earl Beardy, his guests, and their hunting dogs and torn apart. His presence has been His presence has been seen, heard, and felt around the castle. Reports of children wakening in the middle of the night to see a dark figure looming over their beds has been noted. The legend also goes that Earl was visiting the castle one Sunday night upon returning to his room and was shouting in a drunken rage for someone to play cards with him. Nobody wanted to take the offer on the Sabbath, so he, in a rage, that he would play the devil himself. Shortly after this utterance, there was a knock on the door. A tall gentleman with long dark coat appeared, offering to play cards. The two men retired to the room and slammed the door shut. So they were so mad, like, we're going to fucking play. They slammed the door. And looking through the keyhole, one of the servants was, and found himself blinded in one eye by a bright beam of light. So
it'll happen.
Yeah, it'll happen. You get these going on. It's just, guy wanted to play cards with the devil on the Sabbath, You'll get it. So in that room from, even reports today, you hear such things as shouting, stomping feet, banging doors, swearing, all that stuff from the west end of the castle, which is the alleged site of the card game. And people still claim to see a bearded man walking around, and they're like, that's got to be Earl Beardy because of the beard. Right?
Oh, okay. So he got his name because he had a beard.
That's where my mind went. That's off. But this is a couple more. So you got the Hang Butler.
So then, Archie Skippy or whatever it was called is like, did he get that because he liked to skip around, or like, what do you think?
Maybe, or he just he skipped a meal. He would skip a meal.
Or he like Skippy peanut butter.
If that was around back then, and no shame in that.
Who says it wasn't?
Maybe it just wasn't. Maybe we just didn't have the type of advertising we do now.
It's possible.
But yeah, I'm just going. He would skip a meal because I keeping my figure for the portraits. Keeping my figure for the portraits.
Yeah.
But yes.
I'm thinking silk gloves of some kind.
But okay, so you also have a hang butler, and this was a hangman. The hangman's chamber never used these days. It is said to be haunted by the ghost of a butler who hanged himself there. There's a couple more here. I'm going to run through them as quick as I can because, like I said, this is a castle. Get an African servant boy. A ghost of a little African boy was witnessed sitting on a stone seat of the door of the Queen Mum's bedroom on several occasions. Thought to be a ghost servant of a boy who was treated unkindly at the Glams in the middle of the 18th century. This mischievous lad is reputed to trip up passers-by outside the Queen Mother's bedroom, and people who have slept in small dressing rooms of the main room bedroom often felt their bed clothes being pulled off, and the bedroom is now converted into a bathroom because they were like, fuck that. Now, this is a silly one. It's the haunted cup. Be wary if you take a drink from the lion cup in the castle. The silver vessel.
Oh, I want a haunted cup.
Well, the silver vessel is in the shape of a lion, holds nearly a whole bottle of wine. Oh, I want that cup. And visitors are often made to drain the cup in on going upon in. So you have to drain the cup as like a tradition. Or there's a shadowy tradition. The cup has brought bad luck to the castle and is a resident family, though no one knows where the cup came from or why it has such a sinister reputation. So this is just someone bought this cup and was like, make sure you got to drink all of that in there, room service. They want you to get the room service,
Interesting.
And there's a deadly stream outside where, there's the river. It's a river Dean. It's called the Dowie Dean, or meaning doleful or sinister. Popular rhyme once proclaimed that the river took human life each year. The Dowie Dean, it runs its lean alone, and an Eichel year takes een. Don't even know what that fucking means. I just added the last rhyme.
It's Scottish.
Yeah.
It's unintelligible to most people.
Yeah. Another version says that it took a life once a year, then spared a life the next year. So it's like balancing, take one this year, spare one the next, and then third one says that it's just the dean only killed someone by drowning once every 7 years. So we'll hope that's the one. And the last one is the Haunted Chamber. The legend dates back to 1486, where members of the Ogilvy clan sought shelter from Lord Glams as their enemies. The Lindsays were in pursuit. Lord Glams admitted them to the castle and told them to hide in a chamber. What the Ogilvys didn't realize was that Lord Glams was in fact great friends with the Lindsay clan. Having locked the Ogilvys in the chamber, he left them to die without food or drink, just like the oubliette. A few years later, Earl of Strathmore was disturbed by noises coming from the walled-up chamber and broke in to see what the cause was. Inside, he discovered a pile of skeletons which lay twisted and contorted in the last agonies of starvation. Some are even thought to have died in the act of eating the flesh from their relatives. Even today, this chamber is thought to exude a strong sense of uneasiness. That's probably my favorite part of that, because actually, like, one of the people in charge was like, some shit's going on over there. Break it in, and there's your 2 carts of bones.
Yeah, I mean, this seems to be the thing. You got that hidden room, and this place. Oh, your castle here has 2 hidden rooms. You either got the Frogman or you got the pile of bodies.
Yeah, and the one was known about the hidden chamber, hiding the wobbly egg, and the other they discovered later on because some Game of Thrones style shit, locking beefing families up.
Sure, well, they did, man. They were bored. What else were they going to do?
Watch TV.
No, there was no TV. TV to them was throwing people in dungeons
and listening with a glass. With a glass on the wall.
Oh, he's totally going to starve to death today.
Oh wait, he's eating his thigh. He's eating his thigh. She hates it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. I'm not eating her, that crusty bitch.
and then Billy's just sitting there chomping down, and they're like, "Billy, it's your mother." He's like, "Oh, look, Dad, it's happening."
Exactly.
Here's where I'm at. But yeah, that one, like, there's so much in that castle, and I think the chamber is one of the most, besides Earl of Beardy, like the chamber one that held prevalence in the paranormal world for a while, but then the resurgence of the Frogman or the heir to the throne running around the fucking hallways at night and people seeing the ghosts and looking at the history, just nail in that coffin, man. Woo. Woo.
Yeah, they really could have doubled their money, though. They could have had like an event at night, like when he comes out, you could the other aristocracy could stand up top with like their paintball guns and just
well, it would be spongy arrows back then. Yeah, painted arrows. I mean. Yeah, whap whap whap, and he's like, "Oh, I got him in his arse," like high fiving.
Assholes. Fucking yeah. This is what was going on, and this British royal family, and then fast forward to today, and people are surprised that people don't like them.
Yeah, right. You wonder why people hear about them on the news, and we're like, "Oh, what the fuck?" Like,
yeah, exactly.
Didn't win the Revolutionary War, motherfucker.
Exactly. All right. All right. Well, let's move on to my next pick. This one's a
slobberknocker, a real slobberknocker.
Yeah, exactly. This is a Husqva Castle. Now, this one is. I learned about this one a couple of years ago, but this one's pretty goddamn great. This one's located outside of Prague in the Czech Republic. And, aside from being one of the best preserved castles of the period, and then it has notable features, including a predominantly Gothic chapel, green chamber with late Gothic paintings, and a knight's drawing room. It also is considered to be to cover one of the gateways to hell, to prevent demons from reaching the world.
Good to know.
Built in the 13th century, probably, because they don't know.
Once again,
it's actually it's in a very strange place, which is interesting. The castle is built in an area of forests, swamps, and mountains with no external fortifications, no source of water except for a cistern to collect rainwater, no kitchen, and it's far away from any trade routes, and with no occupants at the time of its completion.
See, I love that. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of like Porky Pig and like Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck when they would go, try to visit these haunted places, and they were out in that same, like that. That's the weird vibe I get. Like a castle or a weird old mansion out set in these no man's lands. I love it.
Yeah, and it's a strange spot because it wasn't defending an area. It wasn't, it was just a very strange spot for a castle. But the weirdest part about it is that it being constructed over this large hole, which basically they think it's like the entrance to a, outside of craziness, that it's this large cave system, right? So it is a castle, but the fortifications are on the inside. It's covering this chasm, right?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know the missing history of that. Like,
Well, that's the thing. It's according to, so what they have is basically, there's folklore surrounding it, right? So they basically said that it was constructed over this, this hole to allegedly close this gateway to hell, which was said to be so deep that no one could see to the bottom of it. And that these quote unquote animal human hybrids were reported to have crawled out of it, and dark winged otherworldly creatures flew in its vicinity. Legend has it that when construction began in the castle, all the prisoners that were sentenced to death were offered a pardon if they consented to be lowered by rope into the hole and then report back to what they saw. Yeah. So when the first person was lowered, he began screaming just after a few seconds. And when they pulled him back to the surface, he looked like he aged 30 years. Yeah. He had wrinkles and his hair was white.
I remember reading about that. And I remember thinking to myself, and I was like, at the beginning, I was like, why not? Why not try to get out, go be creeped out for a while? And then I was like, age 30, fuck you.
Yeah. You ready for this?
Oh, yeah.
According to more local superstition around the castle is reputed to have various types of ghosts, one being a bullfrog human creature. That's 2 in a row. I didn't even mean that to happen. A headless horse, not a headless horseman, a headless horse. That's fucking weird. That is. And an old woman.
Love it.
Okay. And then also there are the remains of demonic beasts who escaped the pit, apparently scattered about the castle. The castle was not built as a residence or as a protective sanctuary, but was instead built because the hole was thought to be a gateway to hell. That's it. Like it was constructed, the building's defensive walls facing inward. They were able to keep the demons trapped in the lower levels, like thickest walls closest to the hull of the castle.
So so the thought there, look, either one, they believed that so much and they were so superstitious that they dumped so much resources, material wise, manpower wise, just time wise, that either they believed it so much or that, bro, something was fucking happening. And that's where I just like, either way, that is the coolest shit that exists.
Now, it is. Now, this place had kind of like fallen out of people didn't really even know about the legend. It's like, oh, here's that old castle or whatever. But apparently, in occult circles, people really knew about this, to the point where during World War II, when this section of I guess it would have been Czechoslovakia back then, came under occupation by the Nazis, they immediately occupied this castle. And there are stories. There are stories upon stories upon stories about what went on here. So the little one is that the Nazis, they were using it as a base for, whatever. I think the big one that came up was there was this program. It was called Lebensborn. I think that's what it's called. It was basically they would take these places and SS officers would meet up with the finest German stock woman bullshit, and they would fuck there and have their kids there, and these kids would be imbued with ancient spirit, nonsense. That's what they said it was used for, but apparently Nazis were trying to go down in there to find because they were this is some Hellboy shit. They were trying to go down the hell into this hole because they were trying to get some kind of supernatural powers or whatever.
Well, I mean, and they did do that shit. They did.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. Yeah. The Ananurba, I believe, was the name of the program. So they and then there's people that say no, there was nothing. Nothing even happened there. It was they just occupied the castle because it was fucking cool, because Himmler was this fucking, scumbag that just really enjoyed taking castles. Yeah. Then fast forward to the 90s when they were renovating again. In this one lower level, I don't think it's in the hole because people won't even go near it. Like no one's going in there. Like even to this day, it's closed. Yeah. But in this lower level of the castle, they found the remains of 8 SS officers. Oh, I love it. So were they doing some just, goofy shit and they got into, was Himmler there and he was getting into like human sacrifice? Maybe. But they were there. Like that's there. They were doing some weird shit there.
I love it.
So they believed enough where like, they wanted to try out whatever this hole was covering.
Now, do you think though that like those SS officers were like the best of the best or like the worst of the worst? Like,
well, who can say? I mean, but that's fucking strange. Like they were clearly killed by their own people. Yeah. Like they held that castle and were only driven out after the war. The building was never shelled or anything like that. So they only left of their own accord. You know what I mean? It was like once the war was over, they just left. So it's super fucking weird because then there's all these other stories that like abound that like they actually got down into these caverns and that they brought up these like human animal hybrids out of this hole in the ground and like they used them for experiments and they tried to make like super soldiers out of them and shit. I mean, yeah, Hellboy shit. I
also
know.
Jesse Ventura shit.
Oh,
he's
my
like,
God.
yeah, we're excuse me, sir. You got the Humansies down there, the Humansies.
Where's Man Bear Pig?
They're down there. They're down there. Can you have to show me one? I know you have one down there. Show me, oh, that is so good. That is so fucking on the tip of my like, oh.
Yep. So the place is actually open now as a tourist attraction. You can go in there, but they're not going to fucking open the hole because it's been built over it. So like, there's this, amazing chapel apparently with these fading frescoes and murals that include like it's a weird frescoes. Like it's a church, but it's like overly pagan stuff. And there's like demonic figures and these
so like Catholicism
animal hybrids. No,
I'm
sure. I mean, yeah, I guess you could because what is it? It's like the representation of the 4 Gospels. You have like the cow with the cow head with the wings, and then you have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Right? You have like the weird like animals with the wings, but it's nothing like that. Like there's like I was looking at pictures of it. There's like a bear ripping a person apart. What the fuck? What is this doing on a?
It's funny.
Church
when
fresco?
they made it, like, and they had the design, and the guy that like commissioned it was like, awesome. He like looked up and was like, yeah, that's what I want.
He just looked at, he was there by himself. He finished it. He was like, fuck you. And it's crazy because like it like instead of like blue skies or whatever, it's like all like red and like it's like
definitely setting a tone,
metal.
Tone and a vibe. Of those colors coming through. I love great fucking castle, bro. Great castle.
I love it. It's I would love to visit.
Yeah. Well, all right. So this next one I got for us guys, another one brought to us from the scariest places on earth, which is the launching point for the series going forward with the popularity of this one, which you guys can't see Jay right now, but he's cracking up because literally this has become a staple in our friendship and relationship since we like first met. This is a Chillingham Castle. Okay, now we ended up eventually renaming it Spooky Ham Castle.
Scary Ham Castle. Because it was like Chillingham Castle. It's like, could that be any more on the nose?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was Scaringham Castle. And so there was this guy that was like his first foray on scariest places on earth was talking about this castle. And I guess he was just like an expert in the paranormal and this castle. So, imagine. My
name's Robson. I don't want to know your names. Fucking asshole.
There's not many people that come to Chillingham Castle who leave smiling. Across there we have a lake where whilst dredging it about 30 or 40 years ago, they came across hundreds of body parts where various people who died here were just strewn into the lake. I wouldn't laugh because you really should not laugh because tonight you will experience things that you will not be able to comprehend and you'll not know what they are. It is said, be gone from Chillingham by nightfall.
I think we'll really find something.
or you will have to contend with the evil forces.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stay here.
Go down this road and you must follow the flame.
See me rocking in a corner, lady.
When you reach the flame, you will see the castle door.
Did anybody see anything?
Now, about 5 years ago, I was given some information that apparently came from an ancient philosopher called Diantor, who was a philosopher to Eleanor of Aquitaine, quite a famous figure in the Middle Ages. Now, it was a druid chant that was almost 1,000 years old, and it said that if you use this chant and you have a mirror and a candle and 1 drop of chicken blood, you will see spirit. It will open a portal to the other side, wherever that is. Now, I was not convinced. Don't believe it. Ancient druids, Middle Ages, history, yeah. Because it doesn't make any sense, does it? Didn't to me. However, 2 years ago, I decided to dig it out and try it live with an audience of about 1.25 million people on radio. When I did this chant, as a skeptic, an absolute skeptic, I didn't expect anything to happen. This is a medieval rhyme. It will show you a glimpse of spirit. Within 5 minutes of reciting that chant, I knew that something very, very, very big had happened. Now, if you dare, let's do this. In the stillness of our twilight, we seek to help those on their way. Give us a glimpse. Over the next 3 months, we received over 14,000 telephone calls, faxes, emails. They were going crazy. Some crying because they'd just seen their husband who died. They loved so much. The mother that had died only a week earlier had appeared. They'd seen them clearly in the reflection of that mirror. We hear the cries of their uncertainties as they gather with their kind. On the other hand, there was someone else who had witnessed this strange creature in the shape almost of a human fly with scales and sores all over their body, as if suffering from the bubonic plague. Protect us now as we guide them towards heaven or fiery rocks. We had other people that were saying, I saw a group of people in old-fashioned dress just walk straight past me. Let them swim in your sainted glory through solstice to equinox. You don't know what you're going to get. It might be that sainted grandmother that you've longed to see, and it could be something from almost the pit of hell.
In the stillness of our twilight,
We seek to help those on their way.
Some people will say, don't do it. The clergy will say, don't think about this. Don't mess with things you don't understand.
Protect us now as we guide them towards heaven and
fiery rocks.
They did it, and it rocked their world. It changed everything they had believed.
So imagine a more redheaded Simon Pegg, like a little more aged, a little more jowy, and wearing a fucking turtleneck
and a little douchey mustache that's black for some reason. The rest of it is redhead, red eyebrows, but a black little mustache.
Yeah, and
I don't want to
know your names. So before we get to the history and everything, this guy, he's on this episode of Scariest Place on Earth before it became like an MTV Fear style show. He ended up like being, after they saw this, and he was like, they're like, oh, this guy's vibe is amazing. Like, they're like, we need this guy to talk everything in every other country. But and he's just like sitting in the back room. There's like candles. He's got his turtleneck, and he's like, Chillingham Castle, terrified. Like, you die if you go in there. Like, he's just like,
this was the home of the murderers.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts, man. Yeah. Nuts. But all right, let me break a little bit of this down. So it was opened in 1344. It's in Chillingham. Chillingham is in Northumberland, England. And it's a 12th century stronghold, and it became fully fortified Chillingham Castle in 1344, and the family bloodline was remained ever since. They have documented giving the royal permission to add battlements, and the castle was much designed and battled, and the family went off to lose early wars in France. Come on, guys, in France. But
yeah, they don't like each other. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, they captured the Norman Castle in 1409 and were made earls of Tankersville, and were even made dukes in their early warrior days. They are early, or they many mentions in Shakespeare in the royal archives, and so it was occupied strategic positions in Northumberland's body border feuds. Chillingham Castle was often under attack and often basked in the patronage of royal visitors. So a lot of royals would use this as like a stopping point, traveling point, and it was constantly under attack because of people who they knew were coming and going. Changed hands a couple times. So one of those, historic.
Did it have a frogman?
No, this is one of the only castles without a frogman or a floppy egg man. So sorry, bro.
All right. It's okay.
But yeah, so there was a lot of change in 1832. King Louis Philippe of France came to stay and gave fine urns from Versailles Palace. And
from where?
Versailles? What is it? Versailles? Come on, Versailles, bro.
Come on,
Versailles. Sorry, gang. Didn't go to
it's Louis XIV's famous gigantic palace.
Yeah, I'm not a Louis guy. I'm not a Louis XIV guy.
Fuck you. Then.
Yeah, sorry, bro. Hey, man, you want to talk Ben Franklin? I'm with you all day.
I bet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Versailles Palace. So basically, it's an historical fucking place, and a lot of people came, went, died. King James VI of Scotland was there. Sir Edward Wakefield. Just people, comptrollers. You name it, they were there.
Comptrollers,
mayors, governors. Treasurers. But no. Yeah, a lot of people were there and came and gone. Always under attack. People died. People lived. It was a fucking castle, So, but so there's a lot of haunts and lots of ghosts. But a poet, Longfellow, he had an adaptation description of Chillingham with the following verse: "All houses in which men have lived and died are haunted houses. Through the open doors and harmless phantoms of their errands glide, with feet that make no sound upon the floors." That's fucking scary.
It is. I mean, I would almost consider that chilling.
Yeah, ham. But
Chillingham.
Yeah. So they even have people that have stayed there since. People were like, I felt a hand on my arm. It was mostly friendly, but it just was, try to guide me to see something. The cameras would not just take pictures, orbs and things they saw, when they developed the film that wasn't there. Orbs bullshit. But
hey.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. But it just, a bunch of different people's accounts. But we also have this time they call it the white pantry ghost, and not a lady or a man. So do we say this is a lady? Do we say it's a man?
White pantry ghost?
The white pantry ghost.
Maybe it's the alien that got caught in the pantry and fucking signs.
Well, that would be like greenish gray, right?
I mean, he could turn whatever color he wants.
Yeah, if the room was white. If there was just all flour in that room, he would be.
I mean, that's like maybe he bumped into a bag of fucking flour and now he's like exactly. But
in what is called the inner pantry, a frail figure in white still appears.
See?
Yeah. The silver was stored here, and a footman employed to sleep here and guard it. Historically, one night, when a footman had turned into sleep, he was accosted by a lady in white. Oh, it is lady. Very pale. Okay. She begged for water. Thinking it was one of the castle guests, he turned to obey. Suddenly, he remembered he was locked in and no visitors could have possibly entered. The same pale figure is seen today, and it's thought that lodging for water suggests poisoning.
Okay, so it's definitely not one of the science aliens because they don't like water.
Yeah, and this one's clearly a lady, apparently.
All right, so and then it definitely couldn't be Gleep Glorp.
Yeah, it's not. No, Gleep Glorp, he's telling the story to Zip Zap, right. And the other
Right, okay.
Intergalactic Rascals, that group. But there also is the ghost in the chamber, and not all ghosts are those we see. Some are merely felt, impalpable impressions on the air. And the poet Tennyson. I'm sorry, Tennyson. I'm not up on. Do you want me to? I'm gonna have to catch up on my poets. My poets and my French. But anyway, the poet Tennyson says
those are two very well-known fucking things. Versailles and Alfred Lord Tennyson. Come on,
bro. I got some of these natties in me, man. Dog goes out the window, bro.
Okay.
You are so disappointed in me right now.
I am. Come on, Zip Zap, get at it.
Sorry, Gleeps. But okay. So the poet Tennyson says there is a sense of something unseen yet distinctly moving. It can be a chill, dark, creeping sensation, or maybe just an oppressive atmosphere. Then there's voices in the chapel. In the chapel, besides the Great Hall, the voices of two men are often heard talking. It is never possible to follow their words, and they stop talking if one makes serious efforts to trace them, like your closet.
That's exactly what happens here.
And then the last one is a ghost in a courtyard.
The thing that happens here that doesn't fucking happen unless I record it, you fucks.
Yeah. Which is postponed. Our investigation has been postponed. But we will have it.
Just to annoy them, just to annoy you guys at Ken's work.
Yeah, guys at Ken's work. Fuck you. See you on Monday. I'm sorry. I don't mean it.
He's not sorry.
I'm not. Anyway, and then one of the last ones is there's a ghost in a courtyard, and when the moonlight casts shadows on the battlements across the worn flagstone, it is positively hard not to see the shades of the shadows come to life. So it's shadow people. It's shadow people in the courtyards.
Shadow people, and maybe it's the flaming skulls making the shadows.
I think I hear them.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not?
How could you not? All right, so I got to catch up. So after that one, all right, so Versailles, and I forget his name now.
What? Tennyson,
yeah, bro.
And it's Versailles. Yeah. I'm going to send you some videos on the history, and then you can just,
Yeah, I'll piece it together. After I polish off a 12 pack, we'll be all right. Hey, man, when we started this, we said you're the history guy.
It's fine. I'm just helping you out, man.
Yeah.
I'm not so much disappointed. I'm just
live lessons for we're doing this here so they can learn with me. Right.
Like
I said, you're the historian.
Learn with Ken.
Learn with Ken, taught by Jay. And I just sit here like, can you tell me about Versailles again, Jay? What taste from Mrs. Dame? What is it?
Exactly. You sit there and eat your PB&J. I'll tell you.
Thanks, Jay.
Exactly. Okay. So is that it on Chillingham?
Yeah. Besides the fucking, what's his fucking name? What I can't even.
Robson.
Robson. Yeah, no,
I didn't want to know your names.
So I think their first foray into the MTV Sphere style show, I think they did Chillingham.
They did.
Yeah,
they did.
He was just like, they. So what Jay's referring to is the name's Robson. I don't want to know your names. He's referring to when they had this family lined up in their strap packs with all their cameras and shit and gear on them.
Yeah,
and they're all lined up, and he's on like the drawbridge with a bunch of torches, and they have him leading and they pull the masks off, and he's standing there, and he just, the name's Robson. I don't want to know your names. Like you're gonna die in here.
Exactly.
Fox family hasn't fucking financed this shit. You're
gonna have an interesting journey to one of the scariest places on earth, Chillingham Castle. Castles are made to be defended, and this one was defended. Now, I know a lot of you may well not believe that there's anything else outside of this. I've worked for 20 years in that field, and I'm telling you, there is a lot that we don't understand. There are such a thing as spirits. There are other things that we are yet to fully comprehend. Now, understand that when you see spirit, you normally will never see spirit straight on. You see it through the cones at the sides of your eyes, so it will be happening round about here. Okay? Now, I get the impression that you like things orderly. You like things you can understand. You You maybe like things that you know what's going to happen before they happen. You like to be prepared. Is this true? True. You'll not be prepared for what you get in Chillingham Castle. You are frightened. Already you're scared. You should be. Are you sure you want to do this? Because honestly, I've a lot of experience and I don't expect anybody to mess with what they don't understand. And you are.
You probably started thinking it was a game. Now that would be a mistake. There was another family who dared to spend the night here at Chillingham. That was the Olsen family, and they confronted the evil spirits that dwell here. But they failed at what we're asking you to do.
What you must do now is follow the flame. You must concentrate on it, and as you go down there, walk towards the flame, and you'll come across the open door to Chillingham Castle. It's on this road where they released a lot of Scottish prisoners, and almost as sport, the people who lived here would rush out, hack them to death, and just leave their bodies to rot.
I mean, number one, right off the top, that fucking guy was like, you know, they were trying to rip some like Robert Stack like off of him a little bit. And they're like, oh, but we'll make him Scottish.
Yeah,
he'll be kind of, you know, he'll be cool. And it's like he's not cool.
Yeah, at that time, like all these haunting shows thought they had America pinned down with like spirits and shit. So that's when you had your traveling to other countries to, you know, they wanted a force of a man who knows more mystery. You know, like oh.
Well, I looked up Robson and I found out that he was actually beaten to death by Tim White.
I would expect nothing less. Yeah. And right now he's somewhere getting just berated verbally by our guy, you know.
100%.
Peter James is like, well, what was wrong with you? You know, like, no.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. My other favorite part of the episode is when they show up at the castle. There's like, for some reason, there's a woman dressed as like a barmaid. She's like, welcome to Chillingham. It's like, what? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but it's like, you know, the whole like these are your apparatuses, like, you know, here's your key and this is your like the thing you are the bearer of this and you are the bearer. They were clearly working out some kinks in that system because like they clip to him and he's just like in the background with like smoke behind his head and then she's just staring at him that like and he's back there like I'll just stand here until the edibles kick in and
exactly, and then the edibles kick in and he starts talking all this shit.
Yeah, he's just like kind of almost yelling at them at points. He would like you're like, whoa, man! Like,
I say to you, don't do this. It's so bad. And then like you can tell the dad from the family is like, the fuck, they paid us to come here. What the fuck is he talking about?
And then he's also, the dad's just like, he's like got a big smile, like looking at the kids, you know, who are all buying it. Yeah. He's like, well, this is cool, guys. You know? Yeah,
dad's there because he's like, you know, he's like dad at Fright Fest. He's like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. Scare the shit out of the kids. I'm having a great time.
This is fat. Try to use the kid lingo.
The kids exactly. Yep. And it just you know, he's having a great time, but you know, the kids quote unquote are like in their 20s and they're like losing their fucking minds. Like, oh god, did you hear that? Did you fucking hear that? The one guy's like, I'm not going in there. I'm not going in there. It's
but dude,
the whole time the dad's just like smiling. You guys fucking kidding me? We're gonna be
and I remember he like the one he had like I think it was him and his daughter. They went to like do a mission together. And she's losing it, and he's just like, "Honey, we just have to put this candle here." You know, and he's like, you know,
yeah. And then at the end, they're like, "Bring back the implements of resurrection or whatever the fuck it was." He's like, "All right, yeah, we just gotta go to this room down here and pick this up and bring it back." And they're like making like he's got to fight a demon, fucking suplex a frogman, and then
and this dude like he's like, bro, he's like, I fucking took apart and reassembled the engine on my Apollo. Like I'm not worried about this shit, you know. Yeah. I love it.
All right, so our final addition to our collection of haunted castles for this evening. Puyanari Castle. You heard of this one?
I don't think I have.
Ooh, this is actually the real Castle Dracula. It's a standing ruin.
Fair enough.
but it was the actual Castle Dracula. There's like, if you go to Romania, every castle they tell you, oh, that's Dracula's castle. There's like 3 different ones that have been like laid claim to it, but this is the actual one. It's located on the top of this mountain. It's really fucking spooky looking. Like it's a standing ruin, and it was built the beginning of the 13th century, and was built, at the direction of Vlad III the Impaler, the historical Dracula. An interesting tidbit about the construction of this castle. Now, you have to understand a little bit, and I'll just keep it simple, but understand a little bit about what happened to the historical Dracula and why he was so bloodthirsty. But even though where he lived, which was technically not Transylvania, it was actually known as Wallachia at the time, he was not in control of his own kingdom. It was actually controlled by these German princes that actually lived there. And he worked and fought for a long time to like get rid of these guys so he can control his own territory. They were actually responsible for the death of his father and his brother. So he had revenge on his mind. Yeah. So during Easter, he invited all of these lords. He brings these German princes, invites them to Easter, like an Easter dinner. They're eating or whatever, and halfway through the thing, Vlad kind of like makes a signal, and guards come into the room, arrest them all, and take them outside and start construction on the fucking castle that he wants. In their their finery, they got their silk robes and their all iced out medallions and shit. Like he marches them up this mountain, which is a high ass mountain, and worked them to death. Like they were not allowed to stop working. Like there's contemporary like reports that like the ones that survived, like they were working, like some of them were actually naked. They actually worked with their clothes fell off. Like it was like just fucking crazy. Now, these guys that he was getting revenge against, they were very bloodthirsty. Like they killed his father. They just were not interested in giving up any kind of control there. And Vlad also had experience with the fighting against the Turks too, who are also extremely bloodthirsty. So like he was brought up in this time where it was like, that's just how you did your stuff. Like it's fucking Dracula. So fucking Dracula. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of legend around this because it's kind of crazy because we have the book Dracula, which has nothing to do with this guy, but in Romania, he's like their George Washington. Yeah. So like they have an amazing like history about the guy. Like he's revered about everything. Like they have all these his birthplace where he died, all these kind of like sites associated with him are like huge places there. And so this castle was actually destroyed by the Turks because like eventually, unfortunately, Dracula was killed in battle by the Turks. Mm-hmm. But this is like one of his last stands. And his wife was actually in the castle, and she thought the castle was about to be taken, and she also thought that Dracula himself had been killed. So she actually threw herself from one of the battlements and landed in the river that's like way below in like this ravine. And the river actually is called the Princess's River because of that. And her ghost is actually seen to this day, apparently, where it's like that's Dracula's wife. Yeah. That's, her ghost inhabits there. Now also what is interesting is that so this castle is on top of this mountain actually, and now what I mentioned before, these German princes, they when they were worked to death, when they would just like die, they would just kick them down the fucking mountain. Right? So there's this area where their bodies basically collected. Now that area today is like considered like beyond fucking haunted. Like there are these stories. It's said that there's these orbs now, but it's not. I think there's just like a lost in translation kind of thing. It's basically these balls of light that are seen, and they're red. and they're apparently seen going up and down the mountain.
Okay.
Like it's almost like their spirits are like, still continuing to work, or they're being kicked down the mountain for eternity.
Well, there's a big disconnect with the photo or video representation of orbs, which come on, it's dust or insects, and then the orb, which kind of lost its potency with even if you go back to I think is it on the Ghost Report with the orbs in the woods from the house camera, or is that's another one of the best ghost footage. Oh, it's the best ghost footage. It's in one of those awesome documentaries where you actually see it's not just like little thing of boom. No, it's a glowing. It emanates light, and those orbs are actually known as a big powerful entity or energy, which isn't just some little speck on a camera. And
no, these are your classic like ghost lights or spook lights, or the ones that are seen by train tracks known as hooker man lights. Like this is that phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's definitely not orbs.
Yeah.
So these are seen often here, and this is it's actually gone. It's been going on for a very long time now. This castle had been, it's a ruin, and like there hadn't been a translation of the book Dracula in Romania until like the early 90s. So they don't know anything about this nonsense. Yeah. So, but since then, and since it's become so popular, there was a few researchers that went there and they went up to this castle, which was like, it was overgrown. It was a ruin. It's not like it is today. They didn't try to restore anything, but it's a ruin. But back then it was overgrown and stuff. And there's this author who was he was a biographer of Dracula, the historical Dracula. He was the first guy to like climb up there since like the 1800s, because the place was like shunned, like people did not go there. And he tells of the story that he climbs up there, and he gets up there. It's almost dark. He gets to the top and he looks down and he sees this red ball of energy or light coming up the mountain towards him. And it scared the shit out of him. And he was convinced that it was the ghost of Dracula. And it's like, well, of course it was. It was a red one. It's a blood ghost.
Or his armor that he wore in Bram Stoker's Dracula the movie.
That too. And then I think he called the guy, the ghost showed up, called him a miserable little pile of secrets. And, it was, that's a Castlevania joke.
Yeah.
So I had to choose this one as the last one, because this, if you folks are not familiar, check out some pictures, or even go on YouTube as usual. There's plenty of folks who have gone, videoed the whole thing. There's even beautiful drone videos of this place, and it's imposing, because they even say like it was hard to attack this place because of its position. Like Dracula knew what the fuck he was doing. And for added atmosphere, if you were to visit today, which you can because it's open, they have fake mannequins that are impaled on stakes in front of the main staircase.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So you get up there and you get your whole thing going. So it's very unstable. Unfortunately, they don't care. This is they just want you to go up there for the tourist dollars. But it's it's falling apart. So if you ever have a chance, which this is on my bucket list, the real Castle Dracula. But whew, what a place!
Yeah, I didn't know it by name, but after you started, spinning the yarn, it started clicking back to me. We do have a bonus castle, the last one, Himeji Castle.
Okay. Oh.
If we want to dive into this one, this is in Himeji, Hyogyo, Japan. It was originally built in 1346 by Akamatsu Sendori as a fortification against local shoguns after the Emperor Nobunaga Oda took control of the Hirama district in 1577. He placed Hideyoshi in control of the castle, who converted the fortified building into a castle with over 30 turrets. Recognized as the UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1993, Himeji Castle is the finest surviving example of Japanese castle architecture. A fort was first constructed on the site in 1333, and in 1346 it was built as Himeyama Castle. Himeyama Castle was in turn remodeled into Himeji Castle in 1581, which was further expanded between 1601 and 1609. Now, a massive network of 83 buildings still remaining, including storehouses, gates, corridors, and turrets. However, what interests us today is the castle well and its related ghost story, one of the most famous in Japan. This time, we'll be meeting one of the most prototypical Japanese ghosts, the unfortunate and pure servant maid Okiku. Her story is well known, that it's said that almost any spot in Japan with a famous well has a version of it. And it is also the subject of kabuki plays, as well as Bernaku versions specifically set in Himeji Castle. Now, in the Himeji version, Ukaku is the lady in waiting and the castle when chief retainer Asamaya Tetsuzan plots to kill the heir of the castle's ailing lord. Tetsuzan attempts to seduce Ukaku and engaging her in a plot, but when she refuses his advances, he accuses her of stealing one of 10 precious plates belonging to the lord, then offers to lie for her if she is willing to be his mistress. When she again refuses, Tetsuzan has her tied over a well and tortured, finally killing her and casting her down into the depths. The play ends with a ghostly voice coming out of the well, counting plates from 1 to 9, and Okiku's ghost menacingly rising from below. Even now, the well at Himeji Castle is called Okiku Aido, or Okiku Well. Now, this is, where we get the ring from, and
Yes.
all those types of Americanized Japanese stories of, the wet female ghost. This is where we get that story from. And there's something about Japanese ghost stories that
they're so unique. They're you can't not like them.
Yeah.
Okiku is a great example of what are known as yurei stories. There's definitely, okay, so how we talk about a lot in these episodes where we'll be like, oh, that's a classic haunting style, that's a classic thing. Japanese ghost stories definitely have their like stories that they love. There's like types of stories they love to have. You have the woman wronged, you have the samurai killed in battle, and then you have like the monk who is either lazy and then killed in a fire in a temple. Like there are definitely types that they for some reason resonates with them, and they're just so unique. And that's not even talking about the monster, the weird ghost stories that involve like ghosts that are possessed lanterns or possessed animals or whatever. But no, I always, clearly, I always love any kind of Japanese story always has that unique flavor, and it's always got historical origins, but then you can tell that over the time it's become part of the fabric of their culture, and it just it just becomes embedded. And like you said, here we are, however many hundreds of years later, and it's now it's
what I always love about the Japanese ghost stories is like it's almost like you're saying the uniqueness of it, but almost like the lesson learned as like our westernized precautionary tale ghost stories. Like our lessons are kind of different. It's like, don't speed at night, like it's like,
Right.
don't take a stranger home. Like it's always that kind of, we have our specific, but theirs are like those, I don't know. It's, dishonor, distrust, this,
it's more like this person's a ghost because they were rude.
Yeah. And that's like that's kind of like the coolest vibe about those. And it kind of goes into their whole belief of like the spirit of Japan, that whole like what you do is us. It represents us and fully, and it will represent us not only the time it happened, but going forward in the future,
Yeah. And just as an aside, if you want a really good Japanese ghost story, it's a movie from 1982 called The House Where Evil Dwells.
I never saw it. I'm gonna do myself that favor.
It's so good. And folks, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's 80s horror cheese, but it's authentic. It's filmed in Japan. I'm not going to say anything more. Yeah. It's so good. You will like it. Okay. And then we got to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. That's on my list this week. I'll get onto it.
Yeah. Yeah. The house where evil dwells.
Yeah. I think that's going to wrap up this episode of Haunted Castles. Jay, do we have any closing statements?
Closing statements. Let's hear it for the frog dudes that got stuck in castles, because damn is right, man. Done dirty.
And I guess my closing statement would be if it is a castle, it is haunted, and there is a specific color tied to a female entity. There is a red lady, a white lady, a brown lady, a gold lady. You're going to find at a castle some lady who was, either a witch supposedly, or killed for being a witch, or her man was killed at war, waiting for it to come back, and
all color coded. They're like ghostly Power Rangers or something.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. I'm with you. But anything else, Dad? We good on this one?
No, man. Just doing what we're doing, right?
Yes, sir. All right, guys. So for this episode of Other Dangerous Podcast, I'm Ken James.
And I'm Jason McKittrick.
And as always, have a spooky evening. Thank you for listening to Other Dangerous Podcasts. Have you encountered the other dangers? If so, you can email us at otherdangerouspodcast@gmail.com. And if you'd like to have a discussion about the paranormal, you can find us at Other Dangerous Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. There you can find submitted pictures, videos, and artwork from listeners. We are now streaming on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else podcasts are streamed. And after listening, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you the other dangers.